Welcome back in, everybody, and we're looking back now at the year in local news, and we had a lot of stories that actually made national news, not all of them for good reasons.
Yeah.
And one of those, maybe the biggest ones, I think, was the Carlee Russell story that you covered that morning.
Yeah, I was actually there that morning when we were first getting the information about it and, reaching out to try to get some details. And then early that morning, we heard that we could talk to her parents, and they were going to be at the Hoover Met. And so just sort of thinking about how things evolved from that morning, going to talk to her parents, to interviewing, and then to where we ended up. You could see even the video there of me talking to them, where we ended up. I mean, it was
the whole timeline was wild, from the Hoover police having their press conferences to her being found. It was just it was crazy.
And then the other story making national headlines, Jeroen van der Sloot, of course, finally confessing to the murder of Natalee Holloway, giving that family some sense of closure. Russell, you were there outside the courthouse, though. Yeah. It was a madhouse out there for good reason, though.
Yeah, it was. And you talk about a national story. There were reporters there from all over the world. I was right beside a reporter from Australia. And yeah, I mean, and I'm from Alabama, so I remember when all of this happens, and it has been a long story, and you hope the family has some sort of closure now.
And Lyndon, as we mentioned, some of these stories that made national headlines were not all for good reasons. One of them, the Montgomery brawl that happened with the riverboat situation.
Yeah, and we had a lot of these stories seem that they happened like back to back to back. The Montgomery brawl happening there where the riverboat was trying to park and there was that whole dispute. That happened literally days before the Carlee Russell thing happened, so it just seemed like this summer was just a big news cycle for our state.
And one of those, you saw the video earlier, the young man who was beaten up at the Rock the South concert. There's still some situations going on with the people who are charged in that case, and I know the mom's still looking for justice, but that was not a good situation at all. But again, you're right. There was that succession of stories where people like, what is going on in the state of Alabama? At least it's one of those years, because usually it's Florida we're picking on.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's so funny thinking about like having family out of state. Like I was getting calls like, hey, what is going on down there?
I mean, especially the brawl in Montgomery. That was not a good look.
Yeah.
Russell, and then, obviously there's some tragic, horrific stories, and you were there live outside the fire station number 9 when that situation happened.
Yeah, and I've been to many breaking news stories where law enforcement, first responders are on the scene, but when I walked up, you could see just how serious it was. They were very solemn. It was a very serious situation for them, and unfortunately, one of the firemen passed away. Another one recovered, but yeah, that was a rough story that day.
And then, of course, the one also down in Dadeville now, the mass shooting at a birthday party.
Ooh,
that story, that still lingers today, obviously, with a lot still needs to be resolved with those that were responsible.
Yeah, it definitely was. And, Russell talking about sort of breaking news stories. That happened in the morning. You all were on.
Yeah, it sure did. We started hearing things on the police scanner, and we were thinking, wow, this can't be right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was.
Yeah. And I was down there that morning, and I remember when it happened, going into that Sunday morning, Saturday night, you could hear the ambulances, the sirens down there, and it was just, it just shook you to your core. It's just such a tragic story.
The Baby Harlow story, that gained a lot of attention as well. And it was one of those things where, you felt good, though.
It was a happy ending.
Yeah, it was happy ending. That's what you like.
When we went out there that morning when, they were still sort of searching for her, there was a lot of concern, a lot of angst, a lot of, people that were really scared for the safety of this child. And so it was good to see, at least with this one, you did have sort of a happy ending with the child being safe. And
then there was a never-ending story with the folks that they had to deal with in the Moody area because of that Moody landfill in St. Clair County.
And you still hear complaints to this day about that fire still burning out there. I've been out there several times, and it would be tough if you lived there and you're dealing with that.
And of course, we'd be remiss. Obviously, severe weather is always a story in our state, and after what happened in Selma, just devastating down there.
Yeah.
The historic places that were destroyed there. But we know they got a long road back, but those are some folks who, they got a lot of fortitude. I know they're going to come back strong there down in Selma. There were some stories on a lighter note, too, that made news. And this one also made national news, and that was Billy the Goat.
Oh,
remember Billy the Goat got loose off Montclair?
That goat was something else.
He was. He had the law enforcement chasing him, community members looking for him.
Right next to the Vulcan, we need a Billy the Goat statue.
There we go.
There you go.
There goes Billy.
Oh my goodness.
The video of officers trying to stop is pretty funny.
The flashlights. I mean, you just cannot make this up.
And eventually, we don't have it particularly in this video. Billy the Goat and his owner came actually to WBRC. We interviewed him back there in front of outside the cooking set there on Good Day Alabama. It's just, sometimes you need the lighter side to sort of balance some of the bad news we get, obviously, in our state in this area. Meanwhile, we got to celebrate a few things. The Stallions
Stallions,
Back,
yeah.
right.
Back-to-back champs, baby.
You know, I looked up a stat. You know, in the first 2 years back, they've only lost 3 games.
Oh,
in
wow.
2 years. That's impressive.
Russell
is
Jones with the.
impressive.
I'm looking forward to seeing how they do it with this merger.
yeah.
XFL too.
Coach
yeah.
Holtz,
Go
man,
ahead.
getting it done.
Coach getting it
Yeah,
done.
there he is.
There
Thumbs
you go.
up.
And maybe before next season they can join us on the rooftop.
The
Yes,
roof-
we debuted the
yeah.
rooftop here at
Did debut
WBRC.
that. That's
There
right.
you see the time lapse there. A lot of work went into that, and we appreciate our sponsors there helping out with that, including
Beautiful.
Inspire.
Best view in the city.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Mike, you've spent a lot of time up there this week.
We have it, and we're going to be spending a lot more time up there, and we look forward to it. And Thunder on the Mountain should be pretty interesting from up there this time as well. We'll all have a big party July 4th.
Yeah,
do it.
let's do it.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
everybody invited?
How about
Okay,
New
good.
Year's Eve?
All right.
Why wait? Why wait?
That's a small look at the year in local news. We'll be right back.
All right.